9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
4 astronauts,
Ignition.
3 launches, 2 lunar landers, 2 critical dockings, and 1 splashdown back on Earth. Over the course of a single mission, NASA's Orion spacecraft will attempt to rendezvous with 2 different lunar lander test vehicles in orbit, a mission designed to test the technology, procedures, and partnerships that could one day return astronauts to the Moon. And NASA has chosen 4 astronauts to make it happen. Randy Bresnik, Luca Parmitano, Andre Douglas, Frank Rubio. At first glance, they're just another astronaut crew. But look closer. Among them is a commander who helped shape the Artemis program itself, the first European astronaut ever assigned to an Artemis mission, an engineer whose work contributed to planetary defense and asteroid exploration, and an astronaut who spent 371 days in space, setting a record for the longest single mission by an American. 4 astronauts, 4 completely different journeys, 1 mission that could help determine how humanity returns to the Moon. But here's the surprising part. Artemis III is not the mission most people think it is. Before astronauts can return to the lunar surface, NASA must first prove that the Artemis system can work. Spacecraft built by different companies, docking systems that have never operated together before, and a mission designed to test whether the road back to the Moon is truly ready. NASA has chosen these 4 astronauts to find out. Artemis III may not be landing on the Moon, but that doesn't make the mission any less important. In fact, NASA considers it one of the most complex human spaceflight operations ever attempted. The mission begins at Kennedy Space Center, where Orion and its 4-person crew will launch aboard NASA's Space Launch System. But Orion won't be heading directly toward the Moon. Instead, the spacecraft will remain in Earth orbit, where an extraordinary series of tests will begin. Waiting in orbit will be 2 different lunar lander test vehicles, one developed by Blue Origin, the other by SpaceX. For the first time, Orion will attempt to rendezvous and dock with both spacecraft during a single mission. NASA's goal is simple: prove that the pieces of the Artemis architecture can work together before astronauts depend on them around the Moon. That means testing docking systems, crew procedures, communications, software, navigation, and the coordination required between multiple spacecraft built by different companies. During the mission, astronauts may even enter one of the lander test vehicles, helping engineers evaluate how future crews could operate between spacecraft during lunar missions. The mission will also test Orion's docking system for the first time, evaluate life support systems during a longer mission than Artemis II, and put an upgraded heat shield to the test during the spacecraft's return to Earth. In many ways, Artemis III is a dress rehearsal for the future. Because before astronauts can descend toward the lunar South Pole, before they can establish a lasting presence on the Moon, NASA must first prove that every piece of the system works together as one. And that is exactly what this crew has been sent to do. Leading the Artemis III crew is Randy Bresnik, and in many ways, few astronauts understand this mission better. Before being assigned to Artemis III, Bresnik spent years helping shape the program from inside NASA itself. As assistant to the chief of the Astronaut Office for Exploration, he worked across nearly every major element of Artemis: Orion, the Space Launch System, human landing systems, Gateway, lunar rovers, and even the next generation of lunar spacesuits. Long before he was selected to fly the mission, he was helping build it. But Bresnik's path to Artemis began long before NASA's return to the Moon program. A retired United States Marine Corps colonel, former FA-18 test pilot, and Top Gun graduate, he built a career operating complex machines in demanding environments. By the time he arrived at NASA, he had accumulated thousands of flight hours across dozens of aircraft. Space would eventually become his next challenge. Bresnik first flew aboard Space Shuttle Atlantis in 2009. He later traveled to the International Space Station, serving as a flight engineer before ultimately becoming commander of Expedition 53. Over the course of his career, He completed 5 spacewalks and spent thousands of hours working in orbit. Yet what makes Bresnik especially valuable to Artemis III is not simply his experience in space. It's his experience connecting people, spacecraft, and missions into a single operation. And that is exactly what Artemis III demands. A mission where multiple spacecraft must rendezvous, dock, communicate, and operate together flawlessly. NASA isn't just sending a veteran astronaut. They're sending one of the people who helped build the roadmap back to the moon. If Randy Bresnik represents the experience behind Artemis, Luca Parmitano represents something just as important: the international partnership that makes the mission possible. Parmitano is the first European astronaut ever assigned to an Artemis mission, and that distinction is far more than symbolic. The Orion spacecraft carrying the Artemis III crew depends on the European Service Module, built by the European Space Agency. It provides propulsion, electrical power, thermal control, air and water for the mission. In many ways, every Artemis flight already carries a piece of Europe with it. Now, one of Europe's most accomplished astronauts will be on board as well. Before Artemis III, Parmitano built an impressive career as an Italian Air Force colonel and test pilot, flying dozens of different aircraft and logging thousands of flight hours. But it was in orbit where he became one of the world's most experienced astronauts. He spent 2 long-duration missions aboard the International Space Station, completed 6 spacewalks, and became the first Italian commander of the International Space Station. Some of his most demanding work came outside the station itself. During a series of complex spacewalks, Parmitano helped repair the Alpha Magnetic Spectrometer, a particle physics experiment designed to study high-energy cosmic particles. The repairs were among the most challenging ever performed aboard the station. Artemis III will require precision, patience, and the ability to solve problems in one of the most unforgiving environments imaginable. Those are skills Parmitano has spent years developing. As Orion's pilot, he won't simply be representing Europe. He'll be helping guide one of humanity's most ambitious exploration programs into its next chapter. Every Artemis crew includes astronauts with years of spaceflight experience. Andre Douglas is different. Artemis III will be his first journey beyond Earth. But don't mistake that for a lack of experience. Douglas represents a new generation of astronauts, one shaped not only by aviation and exploration, but by robotics, autonomous systems, and advanced engineering. His path to Artemis began in the United States Coast Guard, where he served as a naval architect, salvage engineer, and officer of the deck. From there, his career expanded into some of the most challenging technical problems in modern exploration. Douglas earned degrees in mechanical engineering, naval architecture and marine engineering, electrical and computer engineering, and eventually a doctorate in systems engineering. But it was his work at Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory that placed him at the center of cutting-edge space missions. There, he contributed to projects involving autonomous vehicles, deep space exploration, and planetary defense. One of those projects was NASA's DART mission, the first mission designed to test whether humanity could alter the path of an asteroid by intentionally colliding with it. It was a historic demonstration of planetary defense, and Douglas helped make it possible. He also supported the development of scientific instruments for future exploration missions beyond Earth orbit. Artemis III is often described as a systems mission. Multiple spacecraft, multiple launches, multiple dockings, every component working together as part of a larger architecture. And few members of the crew understand complex systems better than Andre Douglas. While Artemis III will be his first spaceflight, NASA isn't sending him because he's new. They're sending him because the future of exploration increasingly depends on the kind of engineering challenges he has spent his career solving. If Artemis III is a test of spacecraft, it is also a test of people. And few astronauts understand that challenge better than Frank Rubio. Before joining the Artemis III crew, Rubio completed one of the most remarkable missions in NASA's history. What was originally planned as a 6-month stay aboard the International Space Station turned into an unexpected journey lasting 371 days, more than an entire year in space, a record for the longest single spaceflight ever completed by an American astronaut. During that mission, Rubio traveled more than 157 million miles, witnessed dozens of spacecraft arrivals and departures, and adapted to the realities of living in orbit far longer than anyone had anticipated. But long before becoming a record-setting astronaut, Rubio built a career serving others. He is both a physician and a United States Army colonel, a Black Hawk helicopter pilot, a flight surgeon, and a leader who spent decades operating in demanding environments where decisions carried real consequences. Understanding the human side of exploration has always been part of his mission. As a doctor, Rubio understands how the human body responds to isolation, confinement, and extended periods away from Earth. As an astronaut, he has lived those challenges firsthand. His experience became even more valuable during his time aboard the International Space Station, where he completed 3 spacewalks helping install new solar arrays that will support the station for years to come. Artemis is designed to take astronauts farther from Earth and keep them operating in space for longer periods of time. The lessons learned from Frank Rubio's year in orbit are helping NASA prepare for that future. Because when the next era of exploration begins, success won't depend only on spacecraft and technology. It will depend on the people inside them. And few astronauts have tested those limits more than Frank Rubio. Standing behind the Artemis III prime crew is Bob Hines, the mission's backup astronaut. But Hines is far more than a replacement waiting on the sidelines. Before Artemis III, he spent 170 days in space as the pilot of NASA's Crew 4 mission to the International Space Station. A military test pilot and combat aviator, he accumulated more than 4,000 flight hours across 50 different aircraft. He also helped develop some of the very systems Artemis III will test. Working with Orion and future human landing systems, Hines contributed to cockpit design, flight controls, and crew operations. If Artemis III is a mission built around docking spacecraft and testing new lunar hardware, Bob Hines already knows many of those systems from the inside. And if NASA ever needs him, he'll be ready to step into the mission at a moment's notice. Throughout the history of space exploration, the missions people remember most are often the landings, the moments when astronauts step onto new worlds, the moments that make headlines. But those achievements are only possible because of the missions that came before them, the test flights, the engineering milestones, the crews trusted to prove that the technology is ready. That is the role Artemis III has been asked to play, a mission that may never land on the moon, yet could determine how future astronauts get there. Every rendezvous, every docking, every procedure, every decision, helping NASA reduce risk before humans venture deeper into space once again. And at the center of that effort stands a remarkable crew. Randy Bresnik, Luca Parmitano, Andre Douglas, Frank Rubio. 4 astronauts helping prepare the next chapter of human exploration, one that could eventually lead back to the moon and farther beyond. Thank you for joining us here on Wormhole to Cosmos. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next journey through the universe. And now we'd like to hear from you. Which member of the Artemis III crew do you think is best suited for this mission? And what part of their background impressed you the most? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Remember, the universe is vast, mysterious, and full of wonders waiting to be explored. Stay curious, keep looking up, and until next time, keep your eyes on the stars.